hearts to be open. No better time, this moment of grace. This is the day we can't wait for tomorrow. Now is the time. Now is the time for planting and tending seeds born of hope, commitment and faith. Cherish this day and the power in knowing why we say, now is the time. Love is the lesson and the legacy we know. Now is the season for the seeds of love to grow. And so now is the time for vision and courage, witness to love, to spirit and truth. No better day than the promise of this one, so we say, now is the time. Now is the time for hearts to be open. No better time, this moment of grace. This is the day we can't wait for tomorrow or someday. Now is the time. Now is the time.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome those here in the sanctuary and those who have opted to join us on Zoom. My name is Angela Morgan, and I'm a member of our Climate Action Team. I want to thank today's service team, which includes Jean Jacobs, Linda Siver, Mary Ellen Scanlon from the Climate Action Team, and Tim Versteeg. The First Unitarian Music Team is Michael Tacey, Jess Huderman, Lee Morris, and the family Von Trapp. The tech team is Mary Eve, Josh McIntyre, Brian Carey, John Elliott, and Ron Weiss. And the ushers are Elizabeth Beckett and Agnes Cunningham. The online folks are muted, and I was asked the people here to do the same. Please ensure your devices are turned off. I'll start this session with a land acknowledgement. Today's service is streaming live from our church in Hamilton on the sacred lands of many peoples. We live upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. The land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. As settlers, we continue to benefit from this land and its resources. As settlers, we must ask ourselves how or if we have shared and cared for the earth and its gifts. Facing the truth is hard. Truth must come before reconciliation. And reconciliation can only be achieved through concrete actions and by upholding our collective responsibility to the health of the lands and the waters. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on the journey of faith or search for meaning, today you are one of us, and you are welcome in this house of worship. Our mission is to nurture one another, serve the community, and inspire action to heal the world. I'm going to ask Mary Ellen to come up and help light the chalice. Our chalice is a reminder of the light and hope of our faith. We light it each time we gather to remind us of the sacredness of our time together. May this flame be our light of friendship and love.
Our opening words today are actually two readings. The first from Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. And from Greta Thunberg. The one thing we need more than hope is action. Once we start to act, hope is everywhere. So instead of looking for hope, look for action. Then, and only then, hope will come. Our opening hymn is number 134.
Morning. So, following the story this morning, the kids will be joining Petra and I at that door because we're going to go outside and enjoy the lovely weather and play some games. I would like to introduce somebody to the congregation. We have two new youth ambassadors joining us this year, and one of them is with us this morning. So, Myas, if you'd like to stand up. You probably know Myas. This is very exciting. Thanks, Myas. We, in the past, have had Vanessa for the last few years and Petra before that. This is a role in which the youth, often in their first jobs, help aid and abet all that goes on in RE, and they are a great help to the folks that are the volunteers and the staff in RE, because they bridge some of the gaps with the little ones. So we're glad to have Myas aboard. Our story this morning is called I Am One, a Book of Action. And it's by Susan Verd with art by Peter H. Reynolds. How do I make a difference? It seems like a tall order for one so small. But beautiful things start with just one seed to start a garden. One stroke to start a masterpiece, one note to start a melody. One step to start a journey, one brick to start breaking down walls. And I can speak one gentle word to start a conversation. I can use my one soft voice to start a friendship. I can perform one act of kindness to start a connection. And I can share one tender hug to start caring. I can light one candle to start leading the way. I can make one drop in the water to start ripples that become swells, then waves, traveling over oceans, across borders and boundaries, landing on distant shores, to start a chain reaction, inspire a movement, make a change. I am one and I can take action. We are each one and we can take action. One by one, we can make a difference because one is all it takes to start something beautiful. And that is the end of our story this morning. And I believe we're going to be sung out by our service leader.
This is one for the altos. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
So, in the Free Faith tradition, we are the support and resources of this congregation. Our gifts and donations sustain the many ministries of this church, a community we have chosen to join and support. We will now receive our offerings while we listen to our music ministers.
One seed is all it takes to grow a forest. One candle can light a dark room. One voice is enough, speaking words of love. Each moment becomes what we choose. Do you want a new world? A world that works for everyone? Open your heart and let it be. We can become the new world. Mother Earth beneath the sky. She's waiting for you and for me to be new. Our dreams light the path for us to walk on. Our songs help our spirits alive. And each little child helps remind us why we not only might, we must thrive. Do you want a new world? know you wanna see a new world, Mother Earth beneath the gray sky, counting on you and me to be a new
Your gifts in support of our ministries to one another and to the community are greatly appreciated. Thank you. In these moments of contemplation, I invite you to relax, close your eyes, if you like, and breathe deeply. Following our reading, there will be a few moments of silence followed by music. This morning's reading is taken from the book titled Braiding Sweetgrass, written by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The berries are always present at our ceremonies. They join us in a wooden bowl, one big bowl and one big spoon, which are passed around the circle so that each person can taste the sweetness, remember the gifts, and say thank you. They carry the lesson passed on to us by our ancestors that the generosity of the land comes to us in one bowl, one spoon. We are all fed from that same bowl that Mother Earth has filled for us. It's not just about the berries, but it's also about the bowl. The gifts of the earth are to be shared, but gifts are not limitless. The generosity of the earth is not an invitation to take it all. Every bowl has a bottom. When it's empty, it's empty. And there is but one spoon, the same size for everyone. How do we refill the bowl? Is gratitude alone enough? Berries teach us otherwise. When berries spread out their giveaway blanket, offering their sweetness to birds and berries and boys alike, the transition does not end there. Something beyond gratitude is asked of us. The berries trust that we will uphold our end of the bargain and disperse their seeds to new places to grow, which is good for berries and boys. They remind us that all flourishing is mutual. We need the berries and the berries need us. Their gifts multiply by our care for them and dwindle with neglect. We are bound in a covenant of reciprocity, a pact of mutual responsibility to sustain those who sustain us. And so, the bowl is filled. The moral covenant of reciprocity calls us to honor our responsibilities for all we have been given and for all that we have taken. It's our turn now, long overdue. Let us hold a giveaway for Mother Earth, spread our blankets out for her, and pile them high with gifts of mind, hearts, voice, and vision, all offered up on behalf of Earth. Whatever our gift, we are called to give it and to dance for the renewal of the world in the privilege of breath.
Good morning. My name is Linda Sevier. Could we have slide 1, please? Thank you. Most of you are aware of or were participants in the climate action survey that was sent out to congregants by the team early in the summer. We were very pleased to receive 98 responses. Sending out a very big thank you to Juliana Beckett for all of her technical help in getting the survey out to you. It was her support that made this work for us. We based our survey on one used previously by First Ottawa UU. It was helpful to start with a model and then tweak it for our own situation. Angela Morgan and her son Liam worked to put congregants' responses into charts to show us where your priorities lie. And we received as well a good many suggestions for workshops and speakers. All of your responses have been instructive and helpful in guiding our planning. We can share with you today an overview of the results of the survey, as well as the general directions for action plans. Our plans are not yet fully detailed, but we'd like to give you a sense of where this is going. So for the survey results you're going to see for these questions, we've abbreviated it for you. We have not given you a lot of numbers because it becomes confusing. So what we did was we put responses in order of the frequency that we received them. Slide 2, please. Next slide. In this, just a second here. This shows the progress that you have observed in the congregation, and it wasn't too surprising to see that. I'm just going to get rid of something here. It wasn't too surprising to see that most of you felt that we have made some progress, but there's still a lot of work to do. Yeah. Slide 3. The task of analysis for this type of question is made a little more difficult because you can give multiple top priorities. So again, they're in order of how you expressed your desires. Hold workshops for the surrounding community was the most possible, I've got a problem because I've got a big block in the middle of my screen there. Can you get rid of the piece that's blocking the rest of the words, or is that possible? Figured it out. Got it. Thank you. Okay, push the wrong button. Okay, here we go. Holding workshops for the congregation surrounding community, as well as adult religious education, children and youth exploration, which both together are an education piece. And that was followed not too far behind by influencing policymakers, was the way the question is worded, and that actually comes down to advocacy for changes. Number 4 was provide shelters in cases of emergency, and that wasn't receiving a lot of responses, but just to keep in mind that churches in Canada and elsewhere are beginning to step up to and recognize the need for emergency shelters for things like heat waves and floods and so on. We have not been asked to do that here. I understand that Hamilton is working on emergency response methods, and we could be asked to do that, and that would be one way when we are called upon to do that we can serve our community. That seems appropriate. Next slide, please. This one looks at the 4 pillars of engagement that we use in social justice work here in our church: advocacy, personal action, education, financial support. So personal action came out as the most common response, making personal changes in our lifestyle, in our consumption, our choices, decision-making, reducing our carbon footprint. Education came in not far behind, as well as advocacy. Financial support came further down, but we will talk about that over the course of the year because there are excellent NGOs and groups that require financial support to do their work of advocacy. Next slide. Pat Dickinson helped us a great deal with analyzing the comments that came in, and where there were questions that required that you answer questions. She looked at the emerging themes that came from these comments using her analytical skills. So some things came out on top. Link with local groups who are already working on these issues. That was mentioned numerous times in the written responses. And Mary Ellen has already begun a list of agencies, local and beyond, which are working on climate action goals of various types and environmental actions as well. And we are going to be linking with those groups. It seems very reasonable to link with groups that already exist rather than start something new ourselves. So we will be linking with existing groups. Mentioned also frequently was reducing waste, recycling, reclaiming, reducing, repurposing, and refusing. There are people local to us who have expertise in that, and we will be tapping into those skills as well. Links to other First UU organizations, churches. Mary Ellen has also started a list of countrywide groups, countrywide UU congregations, which are already ahead of us in their climate action focuses, and they are generously sharing their information, their workshop titles, their speakers, and so on, as well as Ottawa UU has been particularly helpful. So we will be tapping into other UU congregations, and they are happy to share. Mentioned numerous times too were trees, greening the environment, effective strategies for working with governments, that's advocacy, and importance of birds and importance of water. And again, we have local expertise that we can pull into for workshops, presentations, and readings. There was quite a lot of mention about education and the desire for education. That's an interesting topic because education can be about just for itself, or education can be for action. And there was a lot of links to action in the request for education. Education can be about how and where to advocate. Education can precede taking personal responsibility. Personal responsibility can be about educating yourself and following through with what you learned. So these three I see as being very closely tied together, and I think that's very positive because when we tie those three together, there are lots of opportunities expanded for active engagement. I think that's very UU. So thinking about next steps, just before the next slide, we want to stay flexible, but we want to plan and be open for new developments and opportunities. With the help of Gail Rappelt, we are seeking further input on action plans from young adults who have been part of the congregation but may no longer be closely associated with us. We are contacting them and asking them to share their ideas. Next slide, please. We have proposed an initial action plan that will take us through the first few months. We've already got a good start on some of these. The first one, personal accountabilities. Jean Jacobs has begun researching carbon footprint questionnaires that we can fill out, each on their own. And that is an initial good step towards reducing our carbon footprint if we know what our personal carbon footprint is. So these are some interesting tools that we can share with you so that you can set your own personal goals and a step towards personal accountability. We are looking at carbon reduced holiday season workshop. How do we make Christmas less carbon greedy? And we're looking at CYRE programming as well. In the education component, adult course has already been proposed on food. An all-church reads on carbon footprint reduction, and websites linking to organizations. For advocacy, we are linking, as we mentioned, to local groups here within the Hamilton area and beyond, and voting on climate messaging in this next municipal election. Sheila Van Loosen has done some looking into appropriate messaging for that, and we are looking forward to sharing that with you. Financial support, we will give advice on nonprofit year-end donations that would be helpful in our goal. And spiritual support, services like this, surfaces on hope and action. Excuse me. Next slide. Excuse me. This was just a once-over lightly of the survey results. If you would like a more detailed look at the data or to share your ideas with us, you can submit ideas and questions to climate@uuhamilton.ca. And on behalf of the climate team, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone for their support and the encouragement we have received. As you can see, there's much to do and much to learn. It's critical that we make a difference. We need your involvement, your energies, and your hope. So much to do in a short time.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sailor, moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
On the surface, Edward Everett Hale and Greta Thunberg wouldn't appear to have a lot in common. Hale was born in 1822. He became a Unitarian minister at 20 and later was appointed as the chaplain of the US Senate. He was also a distinguished man of letters who was an abolitionist and a pioneer of science fiction writing. Hale was the inspiration for a network of 800 lend-a-hand service clubs across the US that formed following the Civil War, and they worked for various community causes. Greta Thunberg was born in 2003, a century after Hale died. Not yet 20, This young woman has become one of the most recognized climate activists in the world and describes her neurodiversity as a superpower. She has scolded world leaders, inspired millions of people, especially youth, to take climate action, and has even had species of snails and insects named for her. In spite of their differences, they both understood that there are forces in society that benefit from having people believe that they are powerless against the major challenges of their time. In Hale's day, the challenges were the transatlantic slave trade, the American Civil War, and its aftermath. And now we confront the realities of the global climate emergency and the need for massive changes in our economies and our way of life. There is no question that climate change is a hugely complex problem. Some suggest that only governments and large corporations have the capacity to take meaningful action, but we know they aren't acting quickly enough. We are told that individuals won't make much of a difference in their efforts. So we watch in despair as the impacts of climate change disrupts life all over the world, and climate anxiety grows, especially among young people. American environmental psychologist Thomas Doherty notes that too much anxiety is inhibiting. It robs people of their creativity, of their joy, and ultimately of their quality of life. Some of us slide into denial, preferring to carry on as though our status quo actions and choices are of little consequence. But this congregation has decided that individual as well as collective action is important. As Hale says, we cannot do everything, but we can do something. And so we formed a climate action team, not a book club or a discussion group or a climate fretting group, but an action team. Mind you, we will probably be doing the first three as well, especially if I'm involved with fretting. In our survey, you told us that learning about actions we can take is a top priority. We will not refuse to do the something that we can do. I believe that individual action is important for three reasons. First of all, you won't be taking individual actions for long. When you start to take action, you notice how many other people share your concern. You don't have to explain what you are trying to do or why. They get it, unlike some of our friends and family members. Writer Sarah Lazarowicz describes this as an oversoul among climate-aware people. Collaborating with others on our actions has a cumulative impact, especially at the local level. There is power in belonging to a community of people you can learn from and with whom you can share your own ideas. In large part, climate change is driven by consumption, and we all know that consumers have collective power. You can ask Bell Media about that this past week. And so do voters. When you take personal action, you model behavior to people you know, making it easier for them to consider changes in their own lifestyles. Sometimes people don't want to be the first to try something. My friend Louise lives in one of those adult communities with small bungalows where all of the furnaces seem to be wearing out at the same time. When her furnace conked out, an engineer friend convinced her to have a heat pump installed. She was delighted by the dramatic drop in energy consumption and talks about it all the time. She wrote an article about it for the community newsletter, and to date, 4 other households have converted to heat pumps after talking to her and seeing her energy bills. The personal interaction made the difference for them. And finally, taking action may help you feel better. Author Mary Pfeiffer says that action is the antidote to despair. It may or may not help the world, but it always helps us. Hope comes from engaging in a hopeful process. And Canadian activist Sephora Berman believes that hope is not something we have, but something we create. I've been trying to live sustainably for a very long time, with mixed success. There is greater urgency now that I'm an elder in my family, and I'm very worried about the mess my generation is leaving behind. In our household, we are taking a serious look at reducing our carbon footprint even further, which will involve giving up some things we have enjoyed. At the same time, I've had to make some dietary changes for health reasons, and I've been grousing about missing things like ice cream and almond croissant. Finally, David said, "Why not think about all the other things you can still eat?" As we continue on our personal climate journey, it helps to remember that even as we make lifestyle changes, we will have so much to be grateful for, including the spiritual support of this faith community. Greta Thunberg's activism was sparked in part by her struggles with depression, triggered after learning the dismal facts about climate change at school. After a successful first campaign to get her parents to radically change their lifestyles, she began her Friday climate strikes at the Swedish Parliament. You may be aware that her mother is Malena Ernman, a very well-known opera singer in Sweden. And in 2016, she decided to stop flying, which had obvious impacts for her career. And the rest is history. Greta's Friday strikes have spread all over the world. Her father said he supported her 2019 sabbatical from school to visit North America because her advocacy seemed to be the key to her happiness and well-being. Greta found her hope and a circle of friends through action. Cabal Eames from the Better Future Project wrote, "Most people do not want to join the End of the World Club because they are motivated by hope and engaging in coalitions that provide belonging and positivity." As we move ahead with our congregation's climate action program, we look forward to working with you. Thank you. Our benediction today are words by Wayne Arneson. "Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone."
We won't hope to survive in this world today, but every
I'd like to thank Beverly Horton for her musical selections today. They were spot on, and it's much appreciated. This is in spite of the fact of Beverly and I having the wrong emails for each other, which made our planning rather interesting. Part of building a nurturing community includes sharing our joys and sorrows. And I have one